Hi everybody, Timothy Ferris here with a few words about a tip that I got years ago and have found quite helpful, and I wanted to pass on to you. It arose out of a passion for cars and motorsports, so let me fill in a bit of background. I started driving at age 12, and I've always been interested in sports cars and high-performance cars. And over the years, I've raced and tested various sports and GT cars on racetracks and public roads in the United States and in Europe. I started with Corvettes, went on to Porsches, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Bentleys, long list of cars. And my own car is a 16-year-old AMG that can do 200 miles an hour with the air conditioning on. Through all this, I've maintained a perfect safety record. I've never had an accident or caused an accident, managed to prevent a few, but I've also gotten more than my share of speeding tickets. Here in California, you can remove the points on your license caused by getting a ticket under certain circumstances by going to traffic school, as they call it. These are conducted online nowadays, but they used to be in person. You'd have to spend the better part of the day there being lectured by an instructor in the law. And the idea was that it would improve your driving habits and you'd be less likely to cause an offense in the future. Many of those present really needed some help with driving, but then you also had speeders who knew a lot about driving but just were typically driving faster than other people, and who were apt to point out that the speed limits in the United States were originally set by simply observing people driving on roads that had no speed limits and seeing how fast they went, and then setting the speed limit at the speed above which drove 15% of the drivers. So the speed preferred by 85% of drivers became the limit. The other 15%, the high-performance drivers in many cases, also, of course, some reckless people, became illegal. So skilled drivers and drivers more generally frequently do exceed the speed limit. If you go on a freeway anywhere in the United States where the speed limit is 55, you'll certainly find that most, or at least many, of the motorists are driving at 65 or 70 miles an hour because really the roads are perfectly safe at those speeds. Just a difference between what is rightly perceived to be a safe driving speed and what the law claims it should be. The traffic school instructors varied widely in their capacities. A couple of them had no idea how to drive at all, but some of them were quite good. The best of them was a middle-aged man who'd been a stand-up comedian and had been driving a D-type Jaguar until he lost it in a divorce, and he gave me the tip I want to pass on to you. As you may have guessed, the tip is leave a little early. If it's going to take 30 minutes to get to where you want to go, leave 40 minutes or 45 minutes before you're due there. Just give yourself an extra 10 or 15 minutes. There are a lot of advantages to this approach. One of them is that you'll avoid anxious speeding. If you leave right 30 minutes before you're due there, if there's any kind of a problem, a traffic jam or whatever, suddenly you're late. What you don't want to do is start driving faster, weaving through traffic to make up the time. That's how accidents happen. That's what happened to Tiger Woods rushing to the airport. Suddenly everything's gone sideways. You're in a big crash. There's no need for that. Speeding is not something you should do because it's imposed on you. You're driving in competition. Sure, you want to go fast. You hope that you can pass the competitor ahead of you. But you're not anxious about it. You're not trying to make something up. A guy I knew who was an F1 driver, I asked him what he'd learned about driving that he could pass on, and he said, well, you know, when you're doing a qualifying lap, which is when everything is as fast as you can possibly make it, and you make a mistake, don't try to go faster. You've already planned your lap to go as fast as you can. If you try to go faster than that, you're simply going to get into trouble. In everyday life, the situation is similar. If you leave at the last minute, you may find yourself having to rush to catch up, and that can be dangerous to do. So don't do it. Just leave a little early. Leaving early gives you more time to enjoy life. You run into someone, a conversation starts, maybe you're picking up coffee, it's a little late. No problem. You can enjoy what you're doing right then because you've got a little extra time. You get there and it's hard to find a parking place. No problem. You find a place, may even have time to listen to the end of a song you like on the radio. And when you do arrive and show up, you'll be unhurried and unharried and more pleasant for other people to be around. To broaden this out a bit into life more generally, if you'll take one more word of advice from an old guy who's seen a few things, you don't want to be the person who's always showing up late, spouting apologies and explanations. You don't want to show up at the concert and your friends are impatiently waiting out front because you're late. You don't want to show up for a dinner party where it's a real faux pas to be late. Nobody wants to hear your explanations about how there was a traffic jam or this cop pulled you over or something. What they want is for you to do what they did, just to show up on time. Leave a little early, that's not a problem. A person who's always late inescapably conveys the impression that he or she feels themselves to be more important than you are. That's not an impression you want to convey. The old saying is, don't apologize, don't explain. That doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with apologizing or explaining in their proper place. It means that you don't want to conduct yourself in such a way that it's necessary to always be apologizing and explaining. Now, this lesson is drawn from driving a car, which I'm aware is likely to be soon an obsolete pursuit as autonomous cars come in. Driving out of necessity may soon be something very few people do, and driving for pleasure, more like the way horseback riding is today, something you do for fun but not for transportation. But the lesson can be applied more widely. Over my years in journalism, I got to meet a number of very successful, capable people. Presidents, CEOs, rock stars and such, people who were good at what they were doing. And the best of them always seemed unhurried. They always seemed to have plenty of time to talk to you and to enjoy the moment. And so borrowing from their example, one can expand this principle beyond just transportation and driving into other areas of life. For instance, I now get dressed about a half hour early. I start getting dressed about a half hour early to go out for social events. That has several advantages. For one thing, if there's a problem, have trouble tying a black tie or something I try on doesn't look right, I have to try something else, I'm not suddenly in a hurry because I've got a little extra time. If everything goes well and I'm ready early, hey, it's fine. You're at home, you're wearing your nice clothes, maybe you can help out your spouse with something or deal with closing up the house or just relax and enjoy yourself. You're early. However you choose to do it, I think the broader lesson is simple. Manage your time. Don't let time manage you. Leave a little early. Thanks for listening. See you next time.